Welcome to Friendly Argument with J. Andrew Bernard and Jeremy Jones.
Let's do this.
New stuff,
All the tangents.
some politics, booze,
Some more politics.
stuff about Kansas, and lots of cheer scenes.
Friendly Argument is a podcast showcasing conversations that seek common ground across the aisle of American politics, as well as a few laughs. We hope you guys enjoy, and thanks for watching. Better than me.
Record on this. Well, I do have a cool microphone, but I feel like we're evening out because your video is a lot clearer than mine. So I'm going to guess you have a webcam, people can hear me more, which is like ironic because I want us to do more podcast and like really focusing on that. But like, I think you avatar the nope, we need to stick with YouTube part of our discussion.
We'll get to where it's both.
Oh, we will. When we're hyper competent through practice and significant others, like I don't know. There's a word there. I'm trying to figure out what it is. It's not like berating, gentle prodding into excellence.
Yeah.
So I'm going to finish my dinner of Laura. We were in Jackson since we're recording already, but we were in Joshua Tree last night because her sister randomly was supposed to go, and then all of her friends got COVID scared and canceled on her. So she's like, "Oh, well, I'll invite you guys." So I was like, "Okay, great." So I got up at 5:00 this morning to drive down here. Why was I telling this story? Oh, because Laura's not here. Yeah. So Laura stayed in Joshua Tree with her sister. I'm supposed to go pick her up after this. But because she's not here, my entire meals today, not through we have food. Laura left me the stuff to make it. But I chose that all of my meals would be salami and string cheese.
We are kindred spirits here.
Mm-hmm.
This is the type of unifying thing that we could have across the country. Like us dudes left alone. I mean, civilization just falls through the floor.
Everything's gonna be beer, meat, and cheese. That's what we got.
God bless. I mean,
every now and then someone will get like around to it and make whiskey, but most of the time it's just gonna be beer, meat, and cheese.
Yeah, and there'll be like some sort of like rock, paper, scissors to see who's gonna decide who has to make the whiskey. Like, damn it.
Damn it, it's my turn.
And then they do a crappy job. That's what I would do. I would do a crappy job of it, so I never got asked.
Well, we wouldn't know that you did a crappy job until 8 months to 3 years later.
Right.
Because it all tastes kind of crappy when it's just like we produced this. It's technically whiskey, but we haven't let it mature yet. So it'd be like in 12 years. It's like, all right, we're opening Jeremy. So maybe that's the thing. It's like if you don't make good whiskey when it's your turn, in 12 years we'll kill you when we test it. So you have to try to make good whiskey now, but you're on a clock.
Did I ever tell you the story about the community, like the little village that did that with their leaders?
No, I'm fascinated.
Yeah, it's like a fable. Basically, like a person walks into a town, they're hanging some people. There's a hanging going on, and they lean in like, who are you guys hanging? And they're like, oh, it's our president. And they're like, oh my gosh, your president, like he must have been terrible. And they're like, no, he was about as good as the last one. And basically this community, they had it set up where they, after your term as leader, you are killed. And because then it created a more selfless leader. And this person who was coming across, it was like basically saying like, in where I'm from, we celebrate our leaders and they're, written about for generations. And they're like, well, then why everybody would want to be the leader if you did it that way. Like, why would you?
Yeah. Like, no, you're an idiot. Why are you? Okay. There we go.
Anyway.
So the problem with me doing this at home at my desk is I inevitably invite clutter. Like I know where pretty much everything is, but I inevitably invite clutter. So now I want a piece of paper. I have a bunch of pieces of paper, but they're all supposed to be being used for other things. But I have found one. So we're good.
Do you need to grab a pen and paper?
Oh, yes, I have a pen and paper. Yes, I have good because inevitably I'm going to want to write notes. So, you want to just get into it and we'll introduce the topic. I figure this will be like the first of probably many, but at least let's say the first of a series of 6. We'll find the 5, what we think are the 5 core. We'll try to figure out what the 5 core American things are today. and then we can debate whether or not those are true. Maybe we'll do 5 from the right and 5 from the left, and then we'll do a few like every now and then where we're like, okay, let's come back to this. Is this actually a closed hand issue or is it an open hand issue?
So you were talking about this as like a unifying thing, sort of because it's just been a divisive few weeks.
Well, yeah, it's been a divisive few weeks. I suspect it'll be a few more divisive weeks, and I don't know whoever wins. It's probably going to be a fairly divisive presidency.
Right, and like I love the unity thing. I remember we had talked about doing this. I'm excited about the idea. I remember us talking about doing it as like a New Year thing.
Oh, well, I guess it depends on when this drops.
Well, I guess that's true too.
Because we have what we recorded 2 weeks ago is ready to drop, or will be ready to drop by Wednesday.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So then I guess that brings up. Are we talking scheduling right now, or are we talking what we should do tonight right now?
I mean, I guess one of them sort of feeds into the other. Just there's just so much has come out about. There's been so much talk about the what is going on with the
lawsuits and
the lawsuits, yeah. And maybe it's something we touch on, and then basically what I thought would be interesting, and maybe this is not something we can talk about tonight, because I if you want time to think about your response to it, like so we talked about the guy in Georgia and his press conference, and he had reached his line. That was clearly his limit, right? And so that begged the question, and what I wanted to ask you, and this does not have to be tonight, but just like what would that look like? What would that be?
Where's
like?
the line? Yeah, actually, we could probably
far, like, or this has gone too far. The party.
So I guess no, that's fair. I think I maybe misread or misinterpreted what you were saying there, because I think that particularly over the summer, like the line got crossed a lot.
For you.
Yeah, like there was a lot of times where I was like, okay, the line's really being crossed here, not by necessarily Republicans, or maybe I should say not by conservatives per se, but particularly like I saw the line being crossed on the left over and over and over and over and over and over again.
So good point of clarification then. Like what would, like this Republican who voted for Trump in Georgia had reached his line with Trump.
Yeah.
What would that look like for you to say, you know what, for J. Andrew Bernard, this is too far. Because from the left, what it looks like is there is no line, like and that whatever he does or says is fine in the conservative zeitgeist's mind. And it can be anything, and they just like the most immediate example would be like all the lawsuits with no evidence, and so no evidence yet. If
no evidence presented,
I feel like but we haven't seen anything for over a month. And did you stall out? Are you back?
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. Sorry, it looked like the video stopped for a second. And I didn't want to talk over you, but but anyway, like, so for that thoughtful conservative title, you know what I mean? There would be some sort of like, okay, well, if this evidence shifted to this, it's like, whoa, okay, that's too far.
I think maybe we're having we're bringing up two different discussion points here.
Oh yeah,
is what I'm hearing, because there's the where's the evidence lie, and then where's the over the line with protesting. And I think there's actually, like, even within the over the line with like protesting, there's kind of two separate points there, which is where is the actual line for people, and then when does a leader need to step in and say, hey guys, cool your jets.
Yeah, I mean that is sort of to take it very, very down to exactly what that guy was speaking to, but I was sort of pulling it out and to say, like, this was this guy's line with Trump. Sterling, I think, is his last name.
Yeah, I mean,
and I was just wondering, like, if there was that line for you personally, or like for the liberal zeitgeist, like, okay, if there was X, Y, and Z lined up, like, okay, that's too far, because what that would say, that would lend a lot to like the legitimacy of the thoughtfulness, because it's like, oh, okay, the evidence has changed as such. Like, so on my side, like if Biden, cut out someone's tongue or something, I'd be like, okay, that's clearly too far. Like, so like, is there, that's where I was going with bringing that up. Like, if there was what that line would be for you or the conservative.
So I feel like that just added a sub point to the other discussion. I don't think that clarified in my mind what exactly our question is, because now I feel like we have 4 conversational topics. It's where's the line for me? Where's the line when somebody has to speak in? Where's the electoral vote? And where's the line for the evidence required to like?
The last 3 are sort of they're just examples of trying to get to that first one.
Where's the line is the question.
For you as Andrew, in the position of the conservative
zeitgeist.
And again, like, not trying to put you on the spot, just trying to clarify.
I mean, I could probably talk about it, particularly since like a lot of like where this show came from was because both sides of the aisle, were at least in the spot that I was at, crossed that line.
Okay.
Because this show idea came from me basically being in a riot, and both sides, like the right having the moral high ground for about 5 minutes, and then losing it pretty hard because there's some idiots. So I mean, so it is a thing we can talk about. But like I said, I guess it's just more of like, I want to make sure I know what our actual conversation topic is, because then I'm going to have to, I'll still want to reverse it back onto you, because I can tell you from the right, it's like where my line has been breached and been being breached in areas of the country for the last 4 years, if not slightly before that.
Yeah. And more so, and I think what we're trying to do, which is different than, like, that's a very pundit question. Like, okay, here's where Jeremy feels slighted by the right, and here's where Andrew feels slighted by the left.
Yeah.
Just a sandwich, right? Like, we're of course going to feel that way, but like, where like if I was to say, like, okay, if Biden came after, something really, really closely held on the right, and I felt like it was a real overreach.
Like if he got Me Too'd.
If he got Me Too'd. Which
BT dubs, he did get Me Too'd, no, but they didn't cover it, so.
Yeah. It's the reporting usually follows evidence. Yeah, on average, not all the time, but
it was fairly, as far as sexual assaults like allegations go, it was like she worked directly with him. She had reported it to a superior and friends at the time. But if again, it was the two of them, so it's a he said, she said at the end of the day. But as far as sexual assault allegations go, it was fairly credible.
Is credible?
At least it was more credible than Christine Blasey Ford's.
Which was is that the Kavanaugh?
Yeah, that's the Kavanaugh. Tara Reid is the person. You can Google her later.
Tara Reid, the actress?
No, it's Tara, and then it's like Reid with an E at the end.
Oh, like the glasses, RE.
Yeah.
Reid or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, like anything that was like.
I guess so. Maybe the topic of conversation is where are lines, and when, like, at what point do you disassociate from people who are ideologically similar because they've crossed the let's call them honor lines.
Sure.
For the sake of convenience. Okay. You want to
or like legitimacy lines, because I think what it lends, like, when you are, so the line for me, like, because I grew up Republican, my parents still vote Republican. The line for me was, entering the political science department as a conservative, and the Bush presidency, and it was the WMDs. I was like, oh, the president said there's WMDs. Certainly there will be evidence presented at some point. And I was really focused on it because it was my major and because I was a geek. And so, you know, I'm watching Colin Powell on C-SPAN, and they didn't present anything. And so over time, the more that was the beginning of it, but over time that wore away at the legitimacy of what he was doing and saying for me.
Yeah.
And you know, and defending it every day, you know, in class, and not being able, you know, seeing where the real pitfalls were and the chinks in the armor, and the further exposure. So that was the beginning. So basically, like, I have
Hey, let's actually pause this because I think we're doing our podcast without actually starting our podcast.
We are.
Yeah. So let's be the professionals we aren't.
It's so
One second, I'm going to adjust my camera too while I'm at it just to reframe.
Are you drinking?
Oh, of course I'm drinking.
Okay. Let me
it's yeah. Come on, Jeremy. Actually, I'm going to go get some Diet Coke too. I'll be right back.
You prefer fat tires. So
Did you hear my stomach?
yeah. Was that what that was?
Yes.
It was terrifying.
It's amazing. Can't wait for it to be attacked.
I don't know if I ever need to hear that again. Ugh. Let me know when we started. I have a birthday shout out.
Oh, we'll start. I mean, I started recording like 2 minutes into doing this, but that's because the magic of editing exists. I know.
So we're gonna put a little bumper like, hi, how's it going?
Yeah. We'll actually start the podcast here in a second. You know, the little intro will play at like some point. Like pretty much it'll play whenever we stop and say, hey, this is this Jay Andrew Bernard and Jeremy Jones. Welcome to Friendly Argument.
Excellent. Let's do it.
Then you do your hello. It's now your catchphrase. You have to do it.
Is it a catchphrase at this point? I'll take it.
It is. You've done it pretty much every episode, so it's now a catchphrase.
I'll drink to that. Cheers.
All right, let me finish eating my sin dinner.
It's a man dinner, friend.
Man dinner. No. A man dinner would be steaks, fried eggs, probably some form of potato with a lot of beer. Like that would be a man dinner. This is lazy. Like this isn't even a lazy man's dinner. Like that's a frozen something or other. This is just
there's a lot of overlap between.
I mean, there is a lot of overlap, but I mean, this stuff is literally just like excess pork and salt. Like it's not even the good part of the pork. It's just like the shitty part of the pork and salt. And I found out today that apparently the string cheese is not actually like all that much cheese. Like it is fake cheese, but apparently you can. Laura rocked my world when she's like, "Yeah, I looked at what's in there, and it's not really cheese." It's like, son of a.
What is it?
I mean, I would have to get up and go to the. We see previous statement about being lazy. I would
Yeah,
have to like walk the 20 feet over to my refrigerator and open the thing and read something. Not
A
happening.
1,000,000% fair. 1,000,000% fair.
Yeah. All right. Oh, now I started eating again, which was what we were waiting for.
You monster.
Yeah. And it's probably catching in the microphone too. So when Laura edits this, she's gonna be really happy with me, like doubly so.
Doubly happy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So here we go. We're coming into it.
Woo.
Yep. Welcome to Friendly Argument with Andrew Bernard and Jeremy Jones.
Hello.
Yeah. So we are doing our first digital episode because our esteemed mayor decided that we needed to. Well, I think our esteemed mayor and our petty king have decided that we have to be on lockdown for at least three weeks is what I think we said. So the conservative joke is currently, well, if it was 15 days to slow the spread and we're 6 months in, 3 weeks means we're going to be here for like what, 4 years? I think is the. I haven't done the math. I should do the math. I have Excel.
Yeah.
I can do this.
I it's a bummer, but this is why we can't have nice things, I guess. So
See, I feel like we could. We're just being crammed down by like a large nanny state. But I think this is something we touched on last episode that we were supposed to get into, and we'll have to at another point.
Absolutely.
Which I think will be let's make a note to do the responsible human versus rule by experts discussion.
yeah.
I'll let you reframe. This will have to be a double title. That'll be a double title podcast because you'll have to reframe it to sound nice to your side instead of like the just snarky skepticism and cynicism of mine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think there's common ground there.
Yeah.
But I always think there's common ground.
I mean, there usually is. It's just how much of it, and then where do we go from there? Anywho, so today is well, we don't date these anymore because we don't.
I'm going to date it because I have a birthday shout out.
Oh, well, then you should date it.
Today is December 7th, 2020, and it is the birthday of Larry Legend, Larry Bird, and of me and some of my basketball buddies have been sharing Larry Bird quotes back and forth all day. What a dude, what a man. So to Larry Legend, cheers, happy birthday, bud. Fellow Midwestern boy.
So when you pitched this birthday shout out, I was like, oh, Jeremy's gonna be really sweet to one of his friends who like watches our show. But no, why would I?
It's because of a friend who will now watch the show because
you're not gonna redeem yourself.
It's Larry Legend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe Larry Bird wants to watch. Now we can say, hey, at Larry Bird, because I'm sure he's very active on social media.
Oh, I'm sure he is. I assume he's still alive. I haven't seen like anything with Larry Bird on it for a while. So,
jeez Louise.
I mean, he's not a young guy. I don't know. I don't follow the NBA. I mean, I assume Jakeem Abdul-Jabbar he's still alive. I saw him on a thing recently.
That
Michael Jordan's still alive. Charlie. Oh wait, no. Something Charles. What's his first name?
You are getting zero help from me. I'm loving.
Oh, you're enjoying this? Charles Barkley. There it is. He's still alive. I enjoy him. He's entertaining.
You went 0 for 1, 1 for 1, and now you're 2 for 1. Two and 1.
2 and 1. And then I think, who's the other ESPN commentator? It's not is it Shaq? Yes, Shaq is also alive.
What's Shaq's last name?
Shaquille O'Neal.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not that much of a cretin.
Those first two, so that is nobody's name. The first thing you said was nobody's name. And so I was like, oh, let's see where this goes.
Yeah, you know. Also, Dennis Rodman is alive because Laura and I have been watching The Pack, which I was like, I thought I was going to hate, but it is charming and I love it and I hate that I love it.
The Pack?
The Pack. It is on Amazon. Free shout out to all 30 of our subscribers that The Pack is a good show. It's heartwarming, even though they do treat dogs like humans, which dogs are not humans, but that's okay.
Well, it's the show was made in America?
It is. Well, it's produced in America. The first episode was in America, and then they're jet setting around the world with their dogs.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's like
I
it's
don't know
like
if
Survivor meets the great race or greatest race or what's the name of that show?
Oh, The Amazing Race.
The Amazing Race. Thank you.
Got it.
Survivor meets The Amazing Race, but you take your dog with you, and your dog is the one who's supposed to be competing.
Oh, damn, that's adorable.
Yeah, it is adorable, particularly when it's like, oh, blue team's gonna win, and then one dog's just like, ooh, squirreling, goes like completely the wrong direction and makes it lose for blue team.
Oh my god, that does sound pretty great.
Bosley.
We've been redoing the Harry Potter movies.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah.
I think my sister-in-law's gonna start those.
They're just a treat.
I have never seen the 7th one.
There's two.
I haven't seen neither of the two that make up the 7th one, and I've only read the 7th book once. It was the night it came out, from midnight to 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. I finished it. I went to my little brother or my middle brother's room, handed him the book, and I have not read Harry Potter since.
6 hours you finished the last
I banged that out in 6 hours. I have no idea what happens in the middle. It was between 3 and like 5. It's just kind of a blur of like Hermione's there helping him. Ron's being a dipshit. A bunch of people I like just died. Okay, I'm glad I went on this emotional journey, but really after like
I'm impressed.
Prisoner of Azkaban, is that number 5?
Oh, bro.
Whatever the 5th one, like after the 4th one, I just was kind of like, nope, these are getting. I wanted the whimsy of the first one, and we got farther and farther away of the whimsy and got more and more into like political intrigue and like realism and like, no, I just want like a magical adventure.
Yeah. It's
what happened to my magical adventure? Now we just have like evil sorcerers killing everyone.
Yeah, and the teens when they turned into teens.
And then the sexual tension. It's like, okay, I get it. You're teens. Like, I get it. I don't mind it, but I want it more subtle.
I'll even take the awkward sexual tension as opposed to the angst. Like, you're a wizard. Yeah. There's no angst. It's just fun. Just have fun. But anyway, yeah, that's what we've been watching. The Pack on Amazon Prime sounds fun. And I've been watching the Harry Potters. I think this is going to be the Line episode. Is that what we're?
Yeah, let's call it The Line. Oh, we're going to start titling our episodes. This is good. Sven and Gwen will be so happy with us.
We're trying.
Whoever happens to be Sven and Gwen this week.
Whoever, yeah. Just the wheel spins and wherever it lands.
Yeah. So you pitched this. You want to explain? You want to walk through it, and then I'll kind of say how I understand it, and we'll get into it.
Sure. So my thought was, where is the line to where Andrew Bernard as the zeitgeist for the conservative side of the country, where is the line where he would say Trump has gone too far, and on my side, same song, second verse, but for Biden. And so the sort of what brought this up was his name is Sterling. He's part of the election process.
The head of the election process in Georgia.
The head of the election process in Georgia. It seems like several folks have been receiving death threats and violence.
People have been going to, I think the AG's house and protesting outside of it.
And the governors. And and basically he was saying this has gone too far. And he's a Trump supporter. He's a Republican. And this was sort of the line for him. So that will be the last time I do air quotes. And
it will not be.
And so yeah, I thought that would be a really interesting thing for us to talk about, because I think it really adds legitimacy to anyone's point of view who's like, okay, well, the information has gone too far and there's a dichotomy to everything. This has gone too far.
So I think what might be the way I kind of understand it is, where do limiting principles start to apply to getting, basically, when does practicality meet limiting principles? Like where is that line?
And like where like my legitimacy would fall to zero, and rightfully so, if I was like, Biden can do no wrong and he's just going down Main Street with a flamethrower and just killing
Mhm.
women and children. And it's like, no, I believe in him. You know, like, okay, bro, you're not even thoughtful now, you know?
Yeah. So, so I guess maybe like we'll see how we get into this. So where's the line? So I think part of this, at least in my mind, part of this discussion is, yeah, I think it's like how I framed it originally. It's when do my limiting principles on my principles run into the practicality of seeing my principles enacted, right?
Very fair.
So I mean, and I think it's always gonna. The accountant answer is it's gonna depend, and I feel like even the political answer is it will depend. So I think it's like we'll start broad and see if we can start getting into maybe more concrete stuff. So I would say the line would be when the practicality of enacting my principles or enacting what I think is the just and right in one area starts to overflow and impact what I think is just and right in another area.
Interesting.
So let's see if I can think of a good hypothetical. Well, so the libertarian example would be you can throw your fists around in the air as long as you want until you hit somebody.
Okay.
Right. So it's like I can do whatever I want until it starts infringing on somebody else's ability to do what they want. Is probably a very, very crass way of stating that example.
I like it's always nice when you're harsher on you than I am.
Well, you know, I feel like if you're going to make an argument, you have to know where you're weak on the argument, and you have to know how to make your opponent's argument better than they can make, which is very frustrating because there's so many things to have opinions on, but to have an informed opinion on anything is like an actual informed. You can have a semi-informed opinion, which I think I have a lot of semi-informed opinions, but to actually own something is Herculean, or at least that has to be your job. So you're talking heads, you're good talking heads, which maybe someday we will be.
We're heads and we're talking.
Yeah, basically spend most of their time reading other people, stopping and thinking about what they're saying. It's to the point where it's like, okay, this is what they're saying. I can make their argument. Now I'm going to stop and think about where that argument fails, and then kind of decide like do the failures outweigh the strength of the argument. Which I do accounting, man. Like I don't have that kind of time. I just don't. I have so many books I've started because I'm like, oh, I'm interested in this subject and it'll be good to see. And then it's like, I don't have time to get this read.
You're rocking through, Harry Potter's in 6 hours. I mean, come on.
Yeah, when I was in college and I had all the time in the world.
It was 6 hours.
Yeah, it's not that long of a book.
Oh, is it? It looks like they're pretty solid, but anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, like font size is everything. 1 second.
I follow what you're saying, and I think you're absolutely right.
No, we must find out how long Harry Potter Book 7 is.
They broke it into 2 movies.
Whoa, yeah. Wait, did you not read the books?
No.
What is wrong with you?
I am not. I am.
Oh, you're too old. I get it. Yeah, that's fine.
I'm too old, and I'm a nerd poser. Like I went to all the Star Wars opening nights. I don't really super care about Star Wars. Lord of the Rings, same thing. Harry Potter, same thing. I'm more of a social event whore. I think it comes from a Cubs fan. I didn't go there for the baseball for a lot of years.
Okay, that's fair. Like, I mean, I am a diehard KU basketball fan, but that's because I was like socially engineered and bred to be a KU basketball fan. So
I understand that fully.
Yep. Okay, we're going off of UK page editions, which is maybe not we really should do US, but I don't see it on this quick Google search that I did. So it's 607 in the UK. So I imagine that because we're Americans, we probably had larger font. We were probably like, I saw 687 somewhere. Either way, for the font and style of writing, that's really not that long of a book. Like if I had read a Robert Jordan book or a Brandon Sanderson book in 6 hours, then I would be impressed with myself.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed, genuinely. Like that is cool, man. That is legit cool. I've always been a slow reader my whole life.
That's fair. Now Audible's a thing, and it's absolutely killed my ability to read quickly or at great length.
I think my sister's going to get me that for Christmas, an Audible
Audible?
membership. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I've got like 500 books I can recommend. Well, really, I
Awesome.
could probably recommend 350 of them, but I own about 500.
Check. No, that's awesome, man. Anyway, our tangents.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we're back to tangents.
It's what we do. It's what we do. But so the line.
Mm-hmm.
This is, after all, the line episode.
Mm-hmm. So the line.
know-
So in general, that's, at least coming from a conservative standpoint, I would define the line as the part of the Venn diagram where the practicality of getting one particular principle enacted starts to infringe on getting another principle enacted.
Okay.
Would be like the definition of the line.
Yeah, I think that's a very personally defined way of doing it. I feel like, just because I don't know if I could do that for myself, just because like I'm not.
Well, are there things that you consider to be right actions?
Right actions.
Yeah,
right,
like are there things that you do that are right and just?
Yes.
Okay, so something defined, like you have a definition of what makes those things right and just.
Sure. Okay, so that's a little more broad than, like, it seemed like where you were defining it as where what I like starts to bleed into what I don't like, what I do like and what I don't like, as opposed to, like, you know, I'm not black or gay.
Again,
so, like,
it's not so much like what I like or dislike. It's where principles start to come into play, and principles are. I would argue that there are principles that are objectively good, and there are principles that are objectively bad, and there's probably some that there's some gray area. But so I would say, like, the definition I gave, the assumption is that these are the great moral principles, and not just like I don't particularly care for tofu type of principles. Like tofu can go burn in hell. But I'm not like, that's not the level of principle we're talking here. It's like murder is bad, but murder's bad. People should be able to do what they want, right? So in my pursuit of stopping murder starts to get infringe on people should be able to do what they want. Like there's a significant, like, I have it in my head and I'm trying to verbalize it.
I think it's the sort of universal principles as seen by you, as in interpreted by you, and as how you hold them. And
well, yeah, or we can even say by the social contract.
A social contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little broader than how I understood it before. So yeah.
So to get specific, so and this is a thing that I've seen both the left and the right do this year, is people have started going to government officials' houses and protesting in front of their houses to various degree of aggression. I mean, yeah, like to the point, like some people, I think it was either St. Louis or it was here in LA, went to the DA's office. Oh no, it was here in LA because it was our old DA who got voted out, to my chagrin. They went to her house and they kept ringing the doorbell, and her husband came out with a gun.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, okay, so you have the right to peaceably protest, and you have the right to hold your public officials accountable. You don't have the right to go to somebody's private residence.
Right.
Like you don't have the right to make something that's a civilian into a military thing.
Yeah. No, I can see what you're saying there. And it's interesting that you brought up that particular point. Jackie Lacey was the DA that you're referring to.
Yes.
And they also went to Mayor Eric Garcetti, mayor of Los Angeles.
Yeah, that started happening this week too.
Yeah, every day this week. BLM, some pals in BLM were talking about that. And it is...
Real quick, can I tangent real fast?
Sure.
Because this is a thing you may know and I don't. Do we have I don't want to call it a mayoral palace because that would be wrong. Mayoral residence. Does LA have a mayoral residence like the states have a gubernatorial residence?
That's a good question. My impulse is to say no. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah.
The only reason I think that is not the case is because I don't think our current mayor, Garcetti, lives where Viragosa, a former mayor, used to live.
He does
And
not live there.
does not live there.
Okay, so we probably don't, because like I want you to get back to your point, so don't lose it. But because we're here, I was going to make the point. I think that there is a difference between protesting at a, like, we'll call it, like, so Kansas, I know for a fact Kansas has a gubernatorial residence, and I'm pretty sure most states do. So I would be okay with somebody protesting at the gubernatorial residence, but not at like their, well, so here's a specific example. My little brother was like secondary friends with Sam Brownback's kid growing up. And Sam Brownback at the time was governor of Kansas. So the Brownbacks owned a house in Topeka, but they also lived at the gubernatorial residence. So I would be fine if people went and protested outside the gate, not on the property, but outside the gate of the gubernatorial residence. But if they were protesting on the land or at the gate of their Topeka residence, I would have a problem with it.
Yeah. No,
So.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna agree with you. I do. Cheers. Yeah.
Because we had an agreement. Agreement always equals cheersing.
Absolutely. But I do feel, because I do know that my BLM friends are going to watch this and they're going to disagree with that. So I want to speak to that for a second. But it's a lot of what you just said. I think you can protest the person's functions in public office in a public space. You can go to City Hall, you have a gubernatorial residence, you can go to the White House, absolutely protest there. The mall and all these places are available. When you go to their personal residences, that's on the line. Yeah.
And it's so your BLM friends, and I'm not going to argue specifically to them, but the thought I had when you said that was, it's the same thing as, like, if you were going to get back in the 60s during the civil rights era, it'd be the difference between getting arrested because you were at, like, protesting somewhere and the cops breaking your door in, right? One of them you did choose. The other one is, like, horrendous. I mean, both are wrong, but there's two different levels of wrongness there.
So if you break the law in public, they can arrest you, but they can't break into your
house just because just because they disagree with you. Right.
Yeah.
Like I believe that it probably did happen. Like there were illegal home arrests. I don't know. I'm just making an assumption here, but my point is it's a vast, like, even if you were going to go with, like, Saul Alinsky's rule for radicals tactics, there's still, like, a difference between attacking someone's private life and attacking their public life, and that's always been true.
Yeah. And
anyway, sorry, I interrupted your point.
No. That was basically it. Just because there was some video posted of police being particularly brutal with nightsticks outside of Eric Garcetti's house to a BLM protest that was there, and it is, you never want to see anybody. I never want to see anybody get hit in the head like that. But yeah, I do think that there's better ways to do it, and it is your duty, if you are going to protest, to really try to retain that moral high ground. And if you get too close to the lines, you give the other side a foothold. That we've talked about this with other protests in the past, and I do think that it's a little gauche, to use your word. And I would agree.
Gauche is probably not strong enough in some cases, but
agreed.
Yeah,
agreed. I just trying to retain that common ground. But yeah, I think there's plenty of opportunities to protest, particularly here in Los Angeles, particularly in downtown Los Angeles, where I am. And so I think that a lot of stuff was protested here that you could continue to use those and be pretty effective. So the side that does that, we have friendly argument, take the stand against protesting public issues in private residence.
Yes, I would say we could probably also agree we don't support violence as a use of statement.
Yeah,
Is that
I
maybe that's a good way of saying that.
agreed.
Like
And
on either side. We're
and
Americans, damn it. We talk our issues out.
yes,
No, well, let me rephrase that. We yell our issues out, but there's a
yeah,
difference between
we tweet
yelling,
our
like
issues
talking loudly and harshly, and throwing your fist.
yeah, we tweet our issues out.
Oh, oh, oh.
This is the reality. But also
It hurts.
I think and it should hurt. It should hurt. That should be uncomfortable. That's a bit of shame. I feel shame for that.
We should feel shame. Well, we should feel shame, except for here's where I think a Jeremy principle comes into play. We are the best, and we're the first, so we're figuring this crap out for everybody else.
Yeah.
Which is why we
it's
should.
interesting.
Yeah.
No. Finish that.
Oh well, this is a huge tangent and probably a whole other podcast. But I was going to say, which is why we shouldn't take our cues from Europe or anybody else.
Oh, and I would say that's why we need to look outside ourselves.
I mean, we can look outside of ourselves to see how other people are doing things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like on the we're amazing, we're just awesome as a people. Like we have a lot different of a situation than pretty much every country other than maybe the United Kingdom.
Yeah, but I mean, Bill Belichick
maybe
still watches film of the other teams. You know what I mean? And
yeah, I mean that's fair.
Good ideas come up everywhere. Take the best. That's what
fair. I just don't see a lot of good ideas coming out, at least as far as governance, coming out of Europe.
Pros and cons for sure. Which is again probably one of my catchphrases at this point. But
we should do a podcast where we just walk through history, and I'm like, this is where this is stupid, and this is where this is awesome, and you can be like, nope, that was stupid, and this other thing was awesome. It'll be great and fun.
I would love that. That's
my inherent cynicism and sarcasm will just be on display, and your perpetual like joviality and optimism will be.
No, absolutely. But I will say this, and as part of the shame of, this is America, damn it, we tweet out our differences.
Mm-hmm.
We also have lost rapport with each other, and so a lot of the things that, and this is another both sides thing to sort of take a cue off of what you were saying, that we both sides have done this year where they think like, oh, this goes without saying. I don't think we get to do that for the foreseeable future. We actually have to be very explicit and be very clear in what we are saying, because until we build back that rapport, build back that respect, build back that trust, we do have to be pretty on the nose, and that's silly and childish and all those.
I mean,
words.
I don't disagree. I guess it's just because this is one of those things. Like I keep hearing like the Biden, like the Bidenites and Biden himself saying, "Hey, we got to start unifying," and it's like, well, why weren't you saying this 4 years ago when Trump won? Like we had 4 years of you guys bashing Trump, but why didn't we unify then? Or during George W. Bush's term or Reagan's term. And so it's kind of one of those and I'm sure people on the left will also say this, but from the right, it's like, that's fine. We're willing to do that, but you first, because we feel like we got hit first.
Yeah. And this leads perfectly into another one of my America is a marriage analogy. So one side did something that was perceived by the other side as the slight, and it wasn't that, there was no intent for it to be a slight. And then the other side reacts to that. And then now the original person that acted feels slighted, and they both feel 100% justified because they both saw themselves as the first one attacked.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think the answer is de-escalation. I think we have to pull back.
Yeah, so I agree that the answer is de-escalation, but I think before we can de-escalate, So like in every relationship, like when you've had like a knockdown drag out fight, you have to be
Yeah.
like, nope, I love you, you love me, this is why we love each other. Now let's talk about what just happened, right? So I think before we can have de-escalation, we have to start having this is, we're all Americans and this is what we agree on before we start before we can start having those de-escalation, before we can start making up.
Yeah.
Because I
actually,
think there's a large perception on both sides. I can tell it's definitely from the right viewing the left, is that it feels like half the country doesn't want to be countrymen anymore.
totally.
Because like, you know, like our principles are, you know, it's individualism with with responsibility to the community, and a lot of that involves like, yeah, it involves capitalistic ideas, it involves libertarian ideas, and it involves individualism, and it feels like a good chunk of the other half of the country is collectivist, and it's like fundamentally opposed to the common ideas. And so it's like, well, where are our touch points now?
Well, yeah, and I think part of it is that we were naturally joiners.
Mm-hmm.
We naturally clumped, we naturally teamed up, and that was sort of these unspoken things, which we found a lot of those unspoken things are being taken advantage of and broken, these norms that were not codified.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was this individuality with the dichotomy of being good teammates.
You understood what was expected of you as an adult.
You understood what was expected of you as adult, expected of you as a team member, which I use to loosely talk about like community and just bigger than yourself. Mm-hmm. And now we are closer to this, like, I don't know if we have 300 million or 400 million people, but it's this
it was 350.
Like, yeah, 350 million of their own individual dictators. Mm-hmm. You know, the TV only shows them exactly what they want. Their computer shows them only exactly what they want. And mm-hmm. We all are in these little silos because we are super lucky. But I think it's pretty easy to be individual. You almost can't get out self-interest and individualness. It's really hard to be a team.
Yeah.
And so I would like for us to get back to valuing the team aspect of America.
I wonder if we as a society we're now suffering from the detrimental properties of both, like, so if there's like the dichotomy of the human existence is you are an individual but you're also a member of a community, right? Mm-hmm. And so like in an ideal healthy world, you are an individual who is responsible to and for the community, right? Like at the end of the day, you're responsible, but you're responsible to this community, right? So I wonder if at the moment we're now having this problem of we are getting everything pampered to us, so we have no responsibility to the community, but yet the community is how we're getting identified to a certain extent. Like you don't like, because there's a lot of talk of like, I'm not Andrew, I am a cis white male, right?
Oh yeah.
So like, I mean, I'm not like identity politics is the easiest shorthand for that, but I think that that's maybe not entire, like it's a contributing factor, but it's not the entirety of the thing. But it's like I'm getting defined by properties about me rather than being defined as like me as an individual. So like now I don't have any responsibility outside of what my expectation is for what the things that I am are. Like I don't have the responsibility. Andrew doesn't have the responsibility. I as a cis white male have a certain responsibility.
And that's to say a cis white male, to try to follow your analogy, has different expectations than
like I would have different, like if I was identifying myself not as Andrew, like not as the individual, but as the unit cis white male, like I would, if you, depending on what side of the aisle you are, I'm either, my job is to lift everybody who's not cis white and male up, or my job, like the perception of the right, but this is not the right's point. My job would be to preserve the power structure that is cis white male. I don't know. I may be speaking Andrew Rees right now because I generally tend to start like 3 sentences into a thought, but
No. I mean, I really like what you're saying, and I do see some points there. My solution focusedness rarely finds that in the separating. So I usually just go to is like, okay, you're a a black gay woman or a cis white male. Like, okay, you're both Americans, and so
yeah, no, I don't think we have disagreement on that. I was using that as an example of like
how
maybe
we
as a society, I think we're starting to get, instead of getting the best of both worlds, we're getting the worst of both worlds. And
I think
the worst is feeding into the worst of both sides instead of having like this, oh, like I'm an adult, like Andrew I owe it to Culver City to be a good citizen of Culver City. I owe it to Los Angeles to be a good citizen of Los Angeles. I owe it to California to be a good citizen of California. And as an American, I owe it to be a good citizen of America. Like there's certain duties in that, but it's my responsibility to live up to those duties, right?
Yeah.
But I think that we now have we're getting more of this. You're a part of this community, so this is your expectation. Like you don't have any responsibility to it. This is what you are now.
Yes.
But I'm being catered. My every whim is being catered to.
Yeah. We're a bit of victims of the success of our forebears.
Yeah.
And so and there's pros and cons of that. And there is this, we have been moving more towards individuality and that hyper I think that hyper individualism for a long time. I think the internet has,
well, we've been a nation of individualists. Like the rugged individual is kind of like the cowboy is our stereotype for a reason.
yeah, I mean, because of movies.
Well, no, but I mean, like people like moved out to the middle of nowhere. Like the entire progression, like the reason we're coast to coast is because people kept being like, I don't like this, and just moved out with like maybe a couple other people.
For sure. And there's that, and there's a dichotomy where, there was no single cowboy built the Empire State Building.
Well, no, but a bunch of individuals who worked really hard did.
Yeah, and you can always bring it down to that level, but there is
yes, somebody was telling them what to do. Yes,
we're standing on the shoulders of giants.
but I think we are. I agree with that. I think we have tangented ourselves into a different podcast. So let's go back to the line.
We take a week off, and
I know we just get out of the habit. We don't post like when we're supposed to. We
have to do that now. I got calls that we didn't post.
Oh, really? Well, hey, at least we have a dedicated audience. So I'm going to look right into the camera. Thank you, dedicated audience. Someday we'll all be awesome together.
Genuinely.
Yeah. So yeah, the line. So I guess
I talked too much there. You go.
Well, no, actually, I was going to say, like, I think I described at least metaphysical, in a very broad brush strokes, like where the line is for me. So, and I would, again, as the avatar of conservatism, I can say, like, I feel like that's the thinking conservative would find the line where it's like, where the pragmatics of getting one principle is starting to juxtapose the pragmatics of another principle.
Yes. So what would that look like with you and Donald Trump? What would be
me and Donald Trump?
And I can talk a little bit here to give you.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because there's a lot. The problem with saying that for Donald Trump is there's a lot of myth and there's a lot of misinformation that surround the man. This is a thing we've talked about quite a few times on the podcast. Like, I'm more concerned with what he does than what he says. So if he says something but then doesn't follow through with it, or he speaks in hyperbole, but then his actions are different, then I'm not as concerned with it. So I guess for me, what would the line? Where would the
let me
line be?
ask this. What could he say that you would have to start taking into account his words? And again,
The problem is he said I could shoot somebody on 4th Street in New York and get away with it. So it's kind of like there, but I was like, but you know, it was like, I was like, well, he's not going to do it, even if it may be sort of true in that particular. Like, he couldn't now, but at the time, it was like, yeah, he maybe could get away with it. So I don't. It's like I said, it's a nebulous. Like, I know there is a line where I'd be like, nope, the guy's out, but
so
I have such low expectations for politicians, and I have such even lower expectation for Donald J. Trump that it's like I
think you're onto something there. Mm-hmm. I think you're onto something there, because I think that if at some point when because we've all been told, and I remember it from my earliest memory of politics, that politicians are slimy. I mean, I'm from Chicago. Like,
yeah,
forget it. Like,
mm-hmm.
You know,
the political machine is real.
We've seen it all as far as bad leadership.
Obama. What?
Wait, what was it called?
Huh?
What was it? Daily? What did you?
Mm-mm.
No, not Daily.
No, you can listen to it on the playback.
I'll have to. I genuinely didn't hear it. But if you're being snarky, which I'm guessing
I was being snarky.
Okay. But we've seen all sorts of bad actors in politics. So it has gotten that, like, oh, politicians are just bad, and so kind of expectations have dropped. I would say too low. I would say we need one of our strengths as Americans is the higher standards, that we see a set of higher standards, and we usually beat that, or meet that or beat that most of the time. And that, I think, is the strength. And I think that we need to start having higher expectations of our politicians as well.
I mean, I don't disagree with that.
Not politicians, leadership. We should have higher standards for leadership.
Yeah, I think we should have, yes, because moral character also affects political character, but
so you're thinking the question that I'm thinking.
Probably. Well, because Donald Trump, like, a lot of his personal dealings has not had great moral character. But then I could also have 80, let's say, be charitable and say 80% of politicians I could make the same claim of. So it's like
degree, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You really see an equivalence.
Yeah, it's just his are out in the open and he's loud about it, and everyone else is better at hiding them. Like this, the ethic. Like, I mean, I'm sure if we pulled up the ethics violations for the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives, I'm sure we'd be shocked. Like, just the amount of politicking. Like, how do you enter politics at we'll say at 35 and you have maybe a bank, a net worth of 30K, and by the time you leave 30 or 40 years later, you're a multimillionaire. They don't make that much money, right?
Right.
They make in DC, they make a middle class income.
So then we should bring in new folks from outside the system, but we lower the standard.
I think we don't have enough turnover, but I think that's a different, I think we're again veering off from where's the line.
Well, yeah. So let me, we have a little bit, because I think we found a line that we agree on.
Yeah.
Which I love. I'm just trying to really hammer down on that moral character. What
so maybe this would be a better way of saying it. So okay. I think that there is there may be a different, like there might be types of moral character, but they all sort of influence each other. Like I wouldn't, and maybe this is again like Donald Trump's kind of like it's kind of like the Mongols in the Green Brothers history things. What are they called? We've referenced them before.
Crash Course.
Crash Course. Yeah, there's like the Mongols. We're the exceptions.
We're
So,
not.
like,
We're not. And by the way, we have no relation.
no, there is no relation. We just they're very charming and generally give you a pretty decent overview of the subject. I think they there's some episodes where I'm a little bit of a subject matter expert where it's like, okay, I can see you're biased here, or you're biased here, but I overall I approve of what they're doing.
Same.
Yeah.
Enjoy
Anywho, so with Trump, there's like so I don't honestly know anything about his business dealings. At the end of the day, I don't particularly care. I cared more, like I do care about, like, I don't know if I should say his sexual morality. Like I don't like that he's like cheated on pretty much every wife he's ever had, and usually with the next one to become his wife, or at least one of them who became his wife. Like I don't like that.
Right.
But so like I don't necessarily trust him to be a good, like particularly at the beginning, I don't necessarily trust him to be a good person. Maybe he's a better person now through this experience. I don't know. I don't know the man. But I guess there's a different, but I don't necessarily, particularly because I don't see him as a member of the body of Christ, like I don't necessarily hold that as like a thing against him. Whereas like if he violated something politically, like so like early on, like there was some fear within conservatism where he was like, we thought he was just going to buddy up to Pelosi and Schumer, and it was
mentioned that multiple times, and it's interesting like what
well, because he was a Democrat for most of his life. Like he just switched in the last like 10 years or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, how would we define his level of principledness?
Oh, I wouldn't call him an overly principled person.
I wouldn't call him an overly principled person.
Yeah. But like I said, like the thought was he's gonna just do whatever the people who like let me find a way to not say this crassly. Whoever like treats him
you say it crassly, I'll soften it.
I was gonna say whoever fluffs him the most, like is gonna be whoever he's buddies with. But now, see, my parents watch this and they're going to be like, what is that? And then they're going to get on Google and they're going to be like, Andrew, how do you know this term? And now I'm going to be like, I work in Hollywood and I do business.
You learned it from me.
No, I didn't. Don't fall on that sword, Jeremy. It's not noble if it's a lie.
It's fun, though.
It is fun. And I don't think they believe you.
He learned all of his bad traits from me.
Yeah.
And so
if he would have done that, then I would be like, I don't care about this guy. Get him out. Like the Democrats hate him. He's doing what they want, not what I want. Get rid of him. So the tariffs early on in his, and maybe even still in his administration, I was like, I don't like that. That is against like the free trade principles I tend to hold.
Lot of tariffs.
Yeah, but there was a lot of other stuff that he was doing that was like, okay, well, I kind of like this. So it was one of those, the line gets bendy.
Yeah, no.
I feel like every line is bendy. So
of course, and each one is weighted too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like you're gonna care in one more area more than another area.
Yeah.
And
so let's switch this over. So where's, I guess, for Jeremy Jones as the zeitgeist or the avatar of liberalism or the left? Where do you identify as?
Oh, I'm no way am I self-identifying.
Okay.
Thought as
I'll stand on my. I'll find a hill to die on. If you want to just wander the valleys.
So I recently got a text message from a family member that was. She's sort of a black and white thinker as well, and likes those, very specific. Mm-hmm. And some things are just kind of fluid. And so so she came out very black and white on me, and I was like, well, I don't know if I would use those exact terms.
Mhm.
But so I'm gonna.
Yeah, there's a lot of sunlight up here on the hills, so you keep having fun down there in those shadowy valleys.
Yeah. It's more accurate, sadly. False
Is it?
false
Is it?
precision. False precision exists.
Uh-huh. I got a better view.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So so I guess for Jeremy Jones, what's the broad stroke like? What's the broad stroke thing that creates the line?
Yeah. So for me, and I sort of came up with this thought in college, and I call it the big ball theory. And basically, I think I used it not necessarily for myself, but sort of how we Americans think about things, and it sort of falls in line with kind of your
Is
thinking.
this you push things a different way, but as long as someone's pushing close to okay, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I stole your line, but go ahead and explain it.
We have talked about it, and so you're constantly weighing those where they're pushing the ball, and where you're pushing the ball, or where you would like to push the ball. And now, when you saw Trump pushing in basically the direction you wanted to see things going, you continue to support him with all the pomp and circumstance, and what some would view as dangerous rhetoric, that you're like, well, I don't like that, but it's not the biggest deal to me. My value system really holds these X, Y, and Z things as valuable, higher value, and he's doing those things. So I will continue to I'm paraphrasing very, very broadly your opinion.
So I guess I'm trying to decide if I want to quibble with the dangerous rhetoric thing, because I think and I think maybe this ties into the conversation a little bit, like how much do we have to hold people accountable for what people perceive them to say? Because so if you talk about like Trump's rhetoric being dangerous, right? There was a Bernie Sanders supporter who I want to say it's 3 years ago now, went and shot up a congressional baseball game. Like he literally almost killed the House Majority Whip. Or wait.
Right. I forget his name, but
or he might have been the Republican whip. I don't remember if they were majority or minority at the time.
Yeah, it was a Republican. Yeah.
Well, it was the Republican, but I don't remember if they were minority or majority. Doesn't matter. Nearly killed the Republican whip, who is like I want to say like 16th most powerful person in the nation or something like that. Like they're in the chain of succession.
Real lone survivor style.
Yeah, lone survivor kind of thing. Like it might be his turn that year. And so it's like, do you he got those ideas from Bernie Sanders, but do we hold Bernie Sanders responsible for his actions?
Yes.
Like I personally wouldn't, in the same way like I wouldn't hold Trump responsible for what people do unless he's making active calls to do something.
Right. And I think it's in a situation like that, I think it's the response. I know that Bernie Sanders came out and said, I don't condone violence and all that afterwards.
I don't remember if he did or not, but
pretty clearly. Yeah, no, I don't know what it was, but I remember very specifically. I was on a softball team at the time, and they were practicing softball, and it like really hit home. I remember very specifically. I'm trying to remember his name.
I just Googled it. I'm going to say it's James T. Hodgkinson.
I don't think that's. There was a couple guys that got shot, but the whip.
No, the guy who got shot, or who was doing the shooting.
Doing the shooting. Oh, I didn't. I don't remember his name, but yeah. No, they. I think it's the clarity of response afterwards is where the rubber meets the road on that. And I think that a lot of this is why the DNC has never got behind Bernie Sanders. Always want to call him Colonel Sanders. It's just so fun.
He's too much of a Yankee to ever be that.
Oh, 1,000,000%. Oh my God. But
I think he may even be in actual official Yankingdom.
Yeah. But the Colonel Sanders just flows so much smoother than in my mind. That's marketing for you. But yeah, I think when in situations like that, it comes down to response. I I personally think that the Democrats do respond more strongly in those situations. But what I'm learning from doing these podcasts is there's a lot of finding what you're looking for, or what, because you've definitely said some things to me like, oh, well, on the right, these are our concerns. And I was like, what? That's like the not even a deal. And there's a lot of reporting there. It's a lot of where we're personally looking, but also it is, it's fear-based to some degree. And so the word isn't rapport, but the assumption of goodwill. I assume goodwill from Bernie Sanders. I assume goodwill from Joe Biden. I assume goodwill from a lot of the Democratic leadership, and I assume goodwill of a lot of the Republican leadership, at least some of the Republican leadership. I have never assumed anything other than self-interest from Donald Trump. I think he would, if someone wanted to buy us for lunch meat, he would ask us how thin they wanted it sliced. Like, I don't think he would bat an eye. And I think that's, at least I can point to a lot of evidence and certainly a lot of words that back that up, about he has never sold me on his goodwill, and I did want to give him a chance, and it was a pretty short-lived. He got out of the TPP. That was a bad move.
I was okay with it, but
in my view, I said in my view.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. Yeah, I guess that's interesting. Like, I'm trying to decide, like, I don't think, maybe, I guess I could say either I assume the goodwill of a lot of people or a lot of politicians. I just assume that their goodwill is drastically misplaced and dangerous. So like Bernie's, let me maybe break it down a little bit more. So yeah. Bernie Sanders, I think, genuinely believes that what he says and thinks is the best thing for us. But I think he's so ideologically focused that he'll never listen to he could never be talked out of his ideology at this point.
Yeah.
And so I think Bernie Sanders is probably maybe not good-hearted, because I have a hard time with maybe that's not fair. I think he's genuine in his beliefs. I just think that his beliefs are very wrong and that he's very staunchly in them. Whereas maybe a Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, I'm like, you're just a politician, and Democrat was the easiest way to get there. Like, I mean, I could probably even maybe accuse McConnell of the same thing. Because he tends to play power politics a little bit more. Not Lindsey Graham, though. Lindsey Graham just seems like he's honest, and was very hurt by the Democrats. Very hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Lindsey Graham 3.0 is significantly better than 1.0. Say what?
All right, sorry, we talked over each other a little bit.
We did.
I said Lindsey Graham is very much a politician, in my view. Relevant, staying relevant is his.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was very middle of the road, voted with the Democrats half the time until the Kavanaugh hearings, and then he was like, nope.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that was a conscious decision, and it was, I want to be relevant. I want to get those headlines, and so he started to play the game. Maybe not power politics as much, but maybe. Certain,
that is one way of viewing Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, that's
is not the view I ascribe to, but it is. I can see how that is a legitimate view of Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, and I mean, I've heard him say that was, a conscious choice, and he said a mentor of his told him, be relevant. And
I'd have to see the quote, but
I could get that.
Yeah, you can send it. I'm sure Gwen or Sven will put it up somewhere.
But yeah, so back to the line.
The line, yeah. So what is the thing that creates the line?
Yeah, I mean, it's from the left view or liberal or whatever word,
Jeremy Jones zeitgeisting for
yeah,
something.
yeah, on the left side of the aisle, I definitely. But the
Welcome to the foothills.
yeah, it's the it's there's so many different types of people. It's such a diverse tent and has been for so long, but in comparison that there's a lot of pitfalls. There's a lot of places you can step out of bounds, racially, sexual orientation, gender identification. All of these are different constituents in that, and we try. The idea is to try to be sensitive to everybody that has that dash American behind them, and so there's a lot of opportunity for them to fall. I think that one thing that I realized with the Clinton thing is when you are on the left and you are doing things generally seen for women, genuinely seen for gay, genuinely seen for diverse, more minority populations, there is, at least with Clinton, certainly, there was more latitude given. And it seemed like a good idea at the time. I think it probably was still a plus because he was so capable of governance, but it gave, now it took the rails off. Like people that aren't particularly politically astute see like, oh, well, this guy with a D after his name had a moral failing. Now anybody that has a moral failing, totally fine.
So I may be missing it, but I'm not hearing like an application.
An application of the line,
like a meta principle, if you will.
A meta principle of the line.
Yeah, like what's the thing that creates the line?
What creates the line?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a little different than the conversation, but that's the question.
I mean, that's the answer that I gave was this is what creates the line. So what creates the line?
The line is legitimacy.
Okay.
When you lose that, you have forfeited your legitimacy, you have forfeited your right to leadership. And the rub is, I think currently, and this sort of speaks to your 2016, certain people never getting behind Trump. Folks did not see him on the left as having legitimacy because they did listen to what he said and not just what he did. And I think they disagreed with both of them, but they particularly disagreed with what he was willing to say.
So they said he's not legitimate. So even though he was legally present, he wasn't in their eyes legitimate.
So where I get the term,
because the feeling from the right is he was not legitimate legally, and he was never going to be legitimate because he was Donald J. Trump.
Right.
But I'm sorry, that's not a fair conversation to start. That gets away from your point.
Well, I mean, but I think it is a point well taken. Like, but whatever his name is, if those words came out of anybody's mouth, I would have a problem with that. And I take the word legitimacy and I define it as like the way I forget what number, and I can definitely look this up because it was in a Jocko discussion where, I don't know if it was a podcast, but definitely a discussion, where the counterinsurgency manual for Iraq and Afghanistan, and basically I want to say it was Petraeus who wrote it, and he defined it as we're like for the hearts and minds, that their word for that was legitimacy.
Mm-hmm.
And so Trump came into office not having the hearts and minds of, at least, he lost the popular vote. He won the electoral college.
Mm-hmm.
So that he was never seen as having the hearts and minds of a lot of people. And I think Biden takes office not having the hearts and minds of a lot of.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that Obama had the hearts and minds?
I think.
I mean, I could say that he had it more so, but I would argue that he didn't actually have the hearts and minds of I would even maybe posit most of the U.S. population, but he was a hope and change and historic president.
Absolutely, but I would say he was the turning point. He was a turning point, because there was some people. Things got extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Things got extreme. I really thought we were on a path to more racial coolness.
The statistics do bear out that like the most racially kumbaya we were was right before Obama got elected, and then it just started tanking. Yeah, like maybe not immediately, but like almost immediately.
Yeah, certainly correlation, right? So that, and I mean, even when George 2000, the 2000 election, I would say too, there was that, when you lose the popular vote and still get the presidency, I think each time we do that, we chip away at the legitimacy, and it's so easy in our country to do that, because we do have freedom of speech, and we do have, you can say negative things against which I think is great. We should have that, but it does make it easier to, like, the "Not My President." That's the first time I saw a "Not My President" shirt was with
Bush or with Obama?
George W. Yeah.
George W. Okay.
And
I can see that.
And that always bugged me.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if you didn't like him, or whoever it is, even if you don't like who is in there as the president, if it makes you feel good that they're your president, you should be like, yes, that's my president. And if it makes you feel bad, and if it makes you feel ashamed that, like, oh, you didn't do enough, and your guy didn't get in, or your person didn't get in, you should feel that shame, and you should be like, nope, this guy's my president, and I need to do more.
So I want to ask you one more question, and like maybe we'll do another 5 minutes on this, because I'm looking at our clock here, and I think we are over our budgeted 45 minutes.
How could that be?
I know. I blame myself. So I guess the final thoughts, and I don't know that we came to a couple agreements. I think we're still friends, which is the main point of this. Even though I think we've made our audience happy, and that I don't think we've agreed on much this episode.
We've
some things, but I think our big things were kind of I think there's more opposition than agreement. Anywho, so in your mind, what builds, like, how does one obtain or build legitimacy? Like, it's easy, legitimacy, like I assume respect and trust is easy to lose, hard to gain, but like, what gives someone legitimacy? And it doesn't have to be the most like true answer, because this is kind of on the spot, but like your gut level first time thinking about it, maybe reaction to that.
Yeah.
Our audience I will request that they not hold Jeremy responsible for anything he says.
Yeah.
In the next like 5 minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I will take that latitude, but I have a pretty clear answer. It's predictability, and it is competency. If those are the two fundamental pillars to building trust. If next time someone mentions trust in a conversation, just sub in the word predictability, and that is sort of the how. So you have to be that consistent, that predictability over time breeds trust. And then you have to show competency. You have to show that you can be consistent, and that you can, there's a reason why you're in the room.
Gotcha.
And that's
okay.
what I think leads to which is always what's the root of all those things? My favorite word: discipline.
Well done.
Had
You
to
did
get
it. You had 5. You did it in 2. Well done. Might have even been less. I'm just looking at my clock. So
I try to be succinct.
yeah. I caught myself between my desk and my chair. So, all right. Well, the lovely Mrs. Laura Bernard is waiting for me in Orange County to come rescue her from her trip to Joshua Tree. So, I think we can safely say that we were. This has been Friendly Argument. We were friends before,
Friends during,
and we are friends after.
Cheers, buddy.
All right. So that's the official podcast done.
Yeah.
Welcome to Friendly Argument with Andrew Bernard and Jeremy Jones.
Let's do this.
New stuff,
All the tangents.
some politics, booze,
More politics.
stuff about Kansas, and lots of cheers aids.
Friendly Argument is a podcast showcasing conversations that seek common ground across the aisle of American politics, as well as a few laughs. We hope you guys enjoy, and thanks for watching.